live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, champ. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Bets Cast for Tuesday, June 14th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game too. It's super easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So for example, in NBA, could be something like the number of points they score, the number of assists they have, number of turnovers, number of three-pointers, anything along those lines that you could put some kind of pick on over or under. Then you're going to choose an amount of money you want to enter into the contest. And if you pick correctly, you guys can win anywhere from 2 times all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper is that it's the only app where I could join with my buddies and we could all play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing, and we could all see what the guy who won 3 or 4 days in a row in our group is playing, and we can follow along. It's insanely fun when everybody's riding it out together and rooting for the same things to happen. So stop what you're doing and download the Sleeper app now to play on their new over-under game. Have fun with your friends and make a little money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can join our listener group on Sleeper by going to sleeper.com/FTN Bets, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. So again, we're going to go to sleeper.com/FTN Bets. It's down in the description of this podcast here, and that'll make you eligible for the $100 match, 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for the details. Yesterday, we had Game 5 of the NBA Finals, and the Golden State Warriors went up 3-2 on the Boston Celtics. Very interesting. There's a couple things I wanted to discuss today. We're going to get into the MVP discussion, which a lot of people were having on Twitter last night, and I think those people are crazy. And based on the numbers, I think the sports books would kind of agree with me. Before we get there, though, we're also going to talk a little bit about where the series prices are sitting here right now. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a peek behind the curtain on something that I've been watching here in this series and some way that I think we can capitalize on it. And actually, that's where I'm going to start right there. So yesterday, the Golden State Warriors wound up beating the Boston Celtics 104-94. And I had mentioned that it might be a good idea to take a look at the alternate lines in this game and see if you could find a Golden State Warriors -9.5. Now, the reason why I chose that 9.5 number is because so far in this series, everybody's talking about the series is 3-2. It's been back and forth. It's been a great series. It's been really close. But did you know that there hasn't been a single game in this series that wasn't decided by double-digit points? The first game, the Boston Celtics won by 12. The next game, Golden State Warriors came back and won by 19. Game 3 in Boston, the Celtics won by 16. And then the last 2 games, Golden State won each one of them by 10. So the lowest margin of victory so far in this entire series has been 10 points. You could have gotten the Golden State Warriors Golden State Warriors -9.5 yesterday. I think it was sitting around plus 300 in that on some of the alternate lines. So if you go to any of the online sports books and you click on them, there's a section on just about every one of them that says alternate lines. So instead of taking whatever the actual spread is, they always put the spread that's closest to like -110 or, even money, -120, somewhere in that range. But you could also play all the other numbers. So instead of taking, I think the game closed at like 4.5 yesterday or something like that. Instead of taking 4.5, you could actually take a bigger number. I think they're going to cover 6. I think they're going to cover 7. And with all these games being double digits, if you would have taken that 9.5 yesterday, even if you do it again for the last 2 games and you lose, you still would be up money on there. So the -9.5 for the Golden State Warriors, something we talked about yesterday. Now, this game is going to switch back over to Boston. So I don't know if you really want to go Warriors -9.5 here. If you think the Warriors are going to close it out with a double-digit win, then you could actually get paid pretty handsomely on that. Right now, Warriors -9.5 for game 6 is sitting at plus 450. The Celtics minus 9.5 for game 6 is like plus 200, plus 250, depending on the books you're looking at. DraftKings had it at plus 200. I think I saw it a little higher somewhere else, but I'll have to double check what book that was I was looking at. But that's what I'm talking about here. I mean, we've had 5 games in the series so far. Every one of them was decided by double-digit points. If we think that trend's going to continue, we can get some really nice payouts here, especially if you're on the Warriors side of this. You think the Warriors can go into Boston, win game 6, and do it by double digits, then we're going to be looking at the, like a plus 450 payout if they can pull that off. Something that they've already done once in this series in game 4, I think, where they won by 10 points as well. So just something to keep in mind there if you're looking to get an early bet down on, what's going to happen here in game 6. We'll talk a little more about it on Thursday. Thursday, we'll go over the game by game. We'll take a look at all the sleeper numbers. We'll see if we can find some good over-unders to play over there on sleeper. We'll also take a look at all the player props and see what we have there. I don't think we're going to get that Jason Tatum and Andrew Wiggins each over 6.5 rebounds again, like we had the other day on sleeper. But, we'll see what the numbers go up to. I mean, those guys have both had double-digit rebounds in the last 2 games. So I have a feeling that we're going to get numbers more like 7.5 or 8.5 on their rebound totals here. But if it does pop on the 6.5 again, we can definitely get on it. I know in the early look lines over on sleeper, they didn't have rebounds as one of the options here. I guess we wanted a little too much money against them on Monday night. So I don't think they wanted to keep going with that one. So let's move on and talk about the next thing here. The next thing I want to talk about is the series price at the moment. So obviously with Golden State up 3-2, they are a massive favorite here. They were a massive favorite when it was 2-2 with them having 2 home games in the last 3 games. It was somewhere around like minus 120 to minus 160, depending on what book you were looking at here. Minus 140-ish was kind of the standard number, I guess, with, a couple books a little bit above, a couple books a little bit below. Minus 120 to minus 160, though, was probably the range that I saw it in between games 4 and game 5 here. Well, with the Warriors winning game 5, that number obviously jumped, and it jumped quite a bit here. So best price I could find right now on the series is the Golden State Warriors minus 360 on DraftKings, minus 400 on BetMGM and FanDuel, minus 420 over at Unibet, Sugar House, and Bet Rivers. So if you're looking to play the Warriors at this point in time, I mean, again, minus 360 is not really a great payout right here. They're basically giving the Warriors about an 80% chance to win the series, which I would think is probably right. I mean, they have to win one of the last 2 games here in order to close it out, with game 7 being back in Golden State if it's necessary, if they lose game 6 as well. So, I do think at this point, betting on the series is really not something that we want to do. I don't want to lay minus 360. I mean, definitely don't want to lay minus 400, but you don't want to lay minus 360 either. It's just too big of a number overall there. If you are looking to play the Celtics side, let's see. Celtics to come back and win the series, the best price we could get, plus 325 on Unibet, Bet Rivers, and Sugar House. The Celtics are favored in this game here. So the plus 325 number basically means that the Celtics would probably be I would assume probably the same as we've seen, even if they win game 6 here. I would assume going into game 7, you're probably looking at the Celtics as somewhere between a 4 and a 5-point dog, which would put their money line probably somewhere around like plus 200-ish or so. We'll have to see what the numbers come out at when they do wind up coming out. But again, you would need the Celtics to win 2 games in a row here today at home, where they are, or not, I shouldn't say today, Thursday at home, where I think they're favored. And then game 7 would probably be sometime over the weekend, probably a Sunday game, would maybe a Saturday game, probably a Sunday game, though. I think Sunday afternoon or Sunday, maybe 8 o'clock at night or so. It's on the West Coast. That would probably be when the deciding game 7 would be, if it is necessary there. So did want to just mention those numbers. With that being said, I want to get to the topic of the day here, because it was a topic that was trending on Twitter. And I think it is something that's just really stupid argument that people are trying to make here. And I just don't see where people are making this argument. And the more I look at the numbers, I think the sports books and the bettors agree with me. And that's going to be who is going to be the MVP of the finals. So let's start by talking here. For the most part, the MVP usually comes from the winning team. And this isn't just an NBA basketball. This is in basically everything. There are very few examples throughout sports where, the MVP of a final isn't one of the guys on the team that won. I mean, you could probably count them on one hand how many times it's happened. So We're going to go with the assumption that if the Golden State Warriors win, the MVP is going to be somebody on the Golden State Warriors. Also, with that same assumption, we're going to say if the Boston Celtics come back and win these final two games to win the NBA Finals, the MVP is probably going to be somebody on the Boston Celtics. So we want to take a look at which guys can actually, even have a chance of winning this thing. And the argument that people are making on Twitter last night is that Andrew Wiggins is now in the driver's seat against Steph Curry for the MVP. And that is just an asinine argument to make. Just go over to the sports books and look at the numbers right now. Steph Curry to win the MVP is minus 350 on BetMGM. And that is the best price you could get on Steph Curry right now to be the MVP of the finals. He's minus 385 on Caesars, minus 400 on Sugar House, Unibet, and Bet Rivers as well. So, I mean, you're looking at a guy minus 350 to minus 400, like a 78 to 80% chance of being crowned the MVP, assuming that his team wins. And again, his team is about the same. We were talking about this a little bit earlier here. Golden State Warriors, minus 360, minus 400, minus 420 to win the championship. So really, I think you actually are getting a little bit of a better price on just betting Steph Curry straight up to be the MVP if you think the Golden State Warriors are going to win it. Again, on DraftKings, minus 360 is the best series price we can find on the Golden State Warriors, but you can get Steph Curry MVP at minus 350. And I do think it would take an absolutely Herculean effort, probably in the last two games. Steph would have to have another, he was 0 for 7 from three-pointer in the last game, had his worst game of the series so far. But it would take an absolutely Herculean effort from probably Andrew Wiggins in order to be able to get ahead of him. And Wiggins right now is like plus 13, plus 1,400. I think you get him as high as plus 1,800 to win MVP. But really, is there even a chance here? So let's take a look at the numbers and we'll kind of break this all down. So Steph Curry for the series, even coming off his worst game of the series, he's averaging 30 points per game, over 5 rebounds, and just shy of 5 assists. So about 35 and 5 is what we've seen out of Steph Curry. He's 25 of 60 from three-point land in the series, which is like 40, let's see, 512, like 41, 42%, somewhere in there is what he has been shooting in the series, which again is very good. It's not outstanding for Steph Curry, and I think that says a lot about who he is, that, the guy's shooting 41%, and we're like, yeah, he's having an okay series here, But again, you take away the 7 threes that he missed in the game yesterday. I mean, he was shooting like 47% or 48% coming into that game. So he has dropped back down to earth a little bit. But again, he could come out next game and go like 9 for 12 and, finish the series like 34 for 72 and, really push that back up closer to that, 47, 48% from behind three-point land, which again, considering that he's taken 60 threes in 5 games, means he's averaging 12 three-point attempts per game, shooting 41, 42% from three-point land. When you're putting up 12 of them a game, you're going to hit 4 or 5 3-pointers of a game, just, per game. It's just the way the math works out with all of that right now. So, Steph Curry is obviously a very special player. Again, he's been contributing and rebounding. He really hasn't had like the big time assist numbers, but he hasn't had them for most of the season. He's been more concentrating on his scoring, which again is not a bad thing. I mean, obviously Golden State needs the offense, and, Steph Curry is definitely one of those guys that can provide it. So here's the deal. I don't mean to, this isn't a knock on Andrew Wiggins, right? He had 2 very good games in the last 2 games, and he's actually been pretty solid throughout the series and very good throughout the playoffs in general. In this series, we got Andrew Wiggins is averaging like 18, 19 points, not exactly 19 points. I think it's a little below that. So it's like 18.6, 18.8, something like that. Not a big assist guy, only about 2 assists per game, only about 1 steal and 1 block per game. But he has had some of those monster rebound games. I think he's right under 10 rebounds on his average. Obviously, the 16 rebound game 4 was huge. He had another double-digit rebound last game. And this is kind of what Andrew Wiggins brings to the table. And he's also played some amazing defense in this series on guys like, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who he's been tasked with, guarding the other team's best player, which is something that we've seen throughout this playoff run from him here. So Andrew Wiggins, I don't mean to knock him. I mean, he definitely belongs on a, playoff all tournament team or something like that. But, when you really come down to it and you look at him versus Steph Curry, Steph Curry's scoring has been better. His assist has been better. And he also has that sentiment of, being a guy that's been around and has carried this team and, been through the thick and thin of it all. And there is a little bit of bias that goes in there because it is something that's voted on, right? Like there's no direct formula like, the guy who scores the most points or the guy who has the most points plus rebounds plus assists is the one who wins it. It is a subjective award. And anytime there's a subjective award, there's always going to be some biases that come in there. And, like I said, Steph Curry, even if Andrew Wiggins has two more really good games and this goes 7 and the Warriors wind up winning, you would really need to see Steph get hurt or like, and even then, I mean, I don't think it's like it's out of the question that this would happen. I mean, again, he's minus 350 right now on BetMGM, minus 400 on some of the other sites, 78 to 80% chance of him winning the MVP. Now, does that mean I want to bet on it? No, I don't want to take anything at minus 350, minus 400. I mean, it would have to be an absolute lock for me to do something like that. And I do think if he stays healthy, it is an absolute lock. But again, what kind of money are we going to make on that, right? I mean, for every $100 you put in, you're going to get back like a $25, $30 return, $20 to $30 return. It's not really something that I'm going to do. It's not really something that usually works out in the long run. So I think if anything, Steph Curry is probably, I don't think he's overpriced. I think he's fairly priced. So I don't think there's any value there with him. But I also think you're just kind of pissing money away if you're really one of these people that's chasing these, plus 1,400 to plus 1,800 yields on a guy like, Andrew Wiggins to win it. I just really, really don't see it happening. It would take Steph Curry having, an injury or two really, really bad games and Wiggins coming up with like another couple, like 20 and 10 games in order for me to even revisit this question here. So if you think Golden State's going to win, I do think you can get a better value taking Steph at minus 350 than taking the Golden State Warriors to win at minus 360. But at the end of the day, neither one is the bet I really want to put on. Before I sign off here, I did also want to mention the Boston Celtics side here. Jason Tatum is plus 375 to win MVP. Boston Celtics plus 325 as a team. It's a little bit closer between Tatum and Brown, but I think Tatum definitely has the advantage here. Jaylen Brown is averaging like 21 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Jason Tatum's averaging 23 points a game, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. So he is having a little bit of a better statistical series than Jaylen Brown. And I don't think any of the other Celtics are really in contention. I mean, if you want to make an argument for Marcus Smart, that's fine. I'm not going to listen to it. He hasn't been better than either one of those two guys. Same thing with Al Horford. He has a big game every now and then. Robert Williams, another nice piece. Guys like Derek White, more like bench players, role players. Even if you look at the Golden State side, right? Like Klay Thompson hasn't really been shooting all that great in this series, and he really doesn't give you much besides points, right? He's a very points dependent kind of guy. He's not going to grab double-digit rebounds like Wiggins has done. He's not going to get you double-digit assists. He's, like 18 to 22 points and like 3 or 4 rebounds and 2 or 3 assists every game is kind of the numbers you're getting out of Klay Thompson. So I don't think you can put him ahead of Steph Curry. Right now, I don't even think you can put him ahead of Andrew Wiggins, who for me is the number 2, the clear number 2 behind Curry in MVP voting. Draymond Green, another guy who's had, a decent, he's had, what the funny thing is? I could say this and everybody will understand. Draymond Green's had a Draymond Green kind of series. He's had games where he scored like 6, 8 points. I think he might have had one game where he's in double digits. He's had games where he's had 5, 6, 7, 8 rebounds. He's had games where he's had 5, 6, 7, 8 assists. And that's what you get from Draymond Green. You get a little bit of everything across the board. But again, when you compare what he's done to what Steph Curry has done, to even what Andrew Wiggins has done, I don't think he belongs ahead of either one of those guys. And then Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, Otto Porter, Gary Payton Jr., the other guys that are out there on the floor are more just role players for this team right here, which, is why I said, Steph Curry belongs as the MVP. He deserves to be the MVP. He deserves to be the short price to win the MVP. I just don't think there's a lot of value there, so I'm not looking to bet it. Again, if you're on the Celtics side of it, you can get the Celtics as high as plus 325 on Unibet and Sugar House and Bet Rivers, 320 on FanDuel, 310 MGM, 290 on DraftKings there. So, betting Tatum at 375 to win MVP would be the better way to go about it if you think that the Celtics can come back and win these final 2 games. Personally, though, that's not really the way I'm looking to do it. I'm not really on it that way. But again, I think that is probably where the best value, the best bang for your buck that you could get would wind up being for this series. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Bets Cast. Tomorrow, we got a fun one. We're going to come back with a little bit of PGA action as we have the U.S. Open that's going to be starting this week. So we're going to have some of the PGA guys stop by, kind of give us some thoughts, throw a couple bets out there for us, maybe a couple outrights, as well as a couple head-to-head, some things that we can do to give ourselves a fun weekend, a fun sweat with golf this weekend. And then Thursday, we'll be back to talk about Game 6 of the NBA Finals. So definitely make sure you guys get down. Make sure you make sure you subscribe to both the podcast and or the webcast, depending if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on your podcast apps like Spreaker and iTunes and all that. And definitely make sure you get over to Sleeper and check out our show sponsor. Remember, the FTN Bets, FTN Fantasy, and FTN Daily packages for NFL season are up already in the FTN lobbies. Use FTN Bets, FTN Daily, or FTN Fantasy /pricing to get over there. And little something extra for my podcast listeners here. Use promo code Benny when you go to sign up for any package, and you could save 20% off as well. So put a couple extra bucks in your pocket. It's the best time to go over there and check everything out. A lot of football content coming up in the next couple months. Once the calendar switches over to July, you guys know how it is. The MLB team's been crushing it, and they'll still be, doing their thing every day. But we're going to have a wave of NFL content coming. Draft content early on, daily content in the middle of August once those, games, those preseason games start up. And then obviously the betting content. We got some future stuff going up right now. We'll have some more future stuff going up in the next month. And then we'll start having some bets coming in August when the preseason games start. And then when the games go live, we'll have all the action that you guys are looking for. All the prop bets, all the sides, all the totals. And we got a couple new players on the team this year. A couple new guys that I'm excited to follow along and converse with about, their betting and their thoughts on some of this stuff. So definitely get over to FTN Bets, FTN Daily, or FTN Fantasy, depending on what your fancy is. Use that promo code Benny, save the 20% off, and come join the FTN fam. This is Benny Ricciardi signing off for today's FTN Bets Cast here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends at Sleeper. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.